What up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Tian, recording remote tonight from my medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. Joining me, as always, the CEO of Hedge Better, Justin Fine. This is the place to be for 1 hour of commercial-free talk on the Patriots and NFL. We have an awesome episode planned. We are going to get into that debacle that happened on Sunday in Foxborough. We're going to go around the league. We're going to roll out a new segment called Take Your Medicine, because if you're in the business of making picks, guess what? A lot of those picks are going to become wrong, and you're going to have to come back with your tail between your legs. So we figured we'd add that in and make that a very public thing. And we've got some all kinds of stuff, some more predictions for the future. So joining me as always is my co-host, the CEO Hedge Better, Justin Fine. Justin, what's up, my man?
Not too much, man. It was a eventful week one, and I think we're going to get into it. I think around the league, I think there was a lot to talk about. It was an interesting week of football, right? I think, I was thoroughly entertained. We had two great primetime games, last night and Sunday night. So, I mean, yeah, I'm ready to get into it. I'm ready to be back fully in the swing of football.
It was a freaking great week one, just from the first game right to the last game.
Yeah.
I mean, all four of the primetime games were good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, even though I know people were disappointed with the Eagles Cowboys game after the weather delay. I mean, it started out an absolute barn burner, right? Friday night, Chiefs and Chargers came down to the wire. And then, Bills and Ravens.
Really two classic games the last two nights back to back.
Great classic games. I was excited. Look, there's nothing worse when you're looking forward to a primetime football game and it's just either an absolute rout one way or another, or just, a trash bag of a game. And luckily, look, it's unavoidable. At some point you're going to get those, but week one, we were pretty lucky.
Well, yeah, the trash bag of the game was actually our game, and Patriots Raiders in Foxborough. Yeah. That was the trash bag, a horrible game. So I think we should start with the Patriots in Foxborough, Justin, and talk a little bit about this team, because I do think this game has more relevance than a typical loss would, and I'm going to tell you why, because I just feel like for those of us that were optimistic about this team and we're expecting things to be different and we're expecting a new era here in Foxborough, and the reality is that everything really kind of looked the same on Sunday.
It did. It looked the same. There was a lot of things that concerned me. Some more than others, and I'm sure we'll get into all that. But, I got to say, I think everybody in the area was thoroughly disappointed in that showing. We did say coming into, opening day that it probably wasn't as easy of a game as maybe we had pegged it a few months ago. And that obviously proved to be true. But I think we beat ourselves more than the Raiders beat us.
I mean, yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, I guess like what I was going to kick it off with, and let's just get into it, is like, I'll tell you who I blame for this loss more than anyone else. And this is really what I thought as I was sitting up in the stands watching from section 111, where I am pretty much every home game. In fact, Justin, I've been to the last 3 years, the Patriots are something like 3-17 at home, and I think I've been to 18 of those games. So I'm really getting had about my fill of watching losing football in Foxborough. And I was actually thinking this might be the worst 3-year stretch or 2+ year stretch that I've had as a season ticket holder. And for those that don't know, I do go back to the early 90s when I was a real little kid. So, it's not just the Belichick and Brady era for me, but, I'm sitting up in the stands and I'm watching this product, and I'm like, first of all, they fired Mayo on January 7th. They had 9 months, $150 million in cap room, free agency, draft, air trades if possible, everything. And that's the best you could do, to come out with in 2025. It was awful. I thought Vrabel got thoroughly outcoached. I don't think he had his best game. I don't blame him for what happened on Sunday. I don't blame Josh McDaniels. I don't even blame Drake May, even though I thought we can talk a lot about him in a few minutes. I blame the person most responsible for this mess on Sunday is a person that isn't even with the organization anymore, and that is Bill Belichick. Because what Sunday showed me is that 7 years of awful drafts, questionable decision-making from a personnel perspective, okay, bad cap management left this organization in complete and total shambles. And it is going to take more than a year or two, or probably even 3 to fix the mess, that the bag of crap that Bill Belichick passed along. This whole thing is rotted. It is an absolute mess. Okay, Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, drafting Sony Michel over Lamar Jackson, Mac Jones, Kyle Duggar. That is why I thought the biggest problem on Sunday was that the talent of the Patriots wasn't really even good enough to keep up with a 4-13 team. That makes me very concerned for the future. Bill Belichick left the cupboard bare, and this is not going to be the quick fix that I hoped it would be. I think we're in for a couple more years of rebuild, and I blame Belichick because at the end of the day, the mess that he created lingers on to this day.
Yeah, well, I think that was pretty evident. I mean, you know, the Patriots were clearly lacking talent, even with all the new faces on this roster. And like you said, I do agree they got outcoached. Here was kind of my assessment of it, and I think there were a lot of things that went wrong. Right, start with the defense. The defense, I don't give them a pass, but when you don't have your best cornerback out there, your best defender out there, and you just recently cut your defensive captain, Jabril Peppers, I can understand how things didn't go as smoothly as we maybe anticipated, right? I will say, I think we should have gotten a little bit more pressure on Geno Smith than we did. Although I know at times Harold Landry and a couple others made some nice plays, but I think we should have got more pressure on Geno Smith. I was a little surprised with that front seven. I was a little underwhelmed. But you know, no Christian Gonzalez. You cut Jabril Peppers. I can see it being a rough landing week one. The offensive side of the ball, I got to tell you what concerned me. It was the fact that the offensive line and the pass blocking, which is what I was potentially the most concerned about with this team, was actually not a huge problem.
It was not Sunday. A big problem at all. It wasn't great, but it wasn't like terrible. It wasn't like last year.
It wasn't. What bothers me about the offense is that the run game, the run blocking in particular, right? And we all know that run blocking is easier than pass blocking, right? And this team was supposed to be a run first team, be able to play smash mouth football. The Patriots did not run the ball well at all. The offensive line didn't get really any push or any movement up front on the run plays. I mean, Travion Henderson was underwhelming. Ramondre Stevenson was underwhelming. And to take it back again to Drake May. Drake May had some decent protection, and he missed a lot of throws, and it concerned me a little bit. I don't know about you, but I did not see a Drake May that I was hoping to. I saw a guy who looked a little herky-jerky. He looked a little uncomfortable back there. He looked a little startled at times, and it showed with some of his bad throws. And ultimately, that interception in the second half that kind of kickstarted the whole downfall. I was really concerned with the way they ran the ball and the way Drake May threw the ball.
Do you think they have enough talent, though? Don't you think the biggest problem with this team is still that there is just not enough talent? You know, I'm looking at, you talk about Drake May, and I'm looking at that Minnesota team last night, and I'm getting envious for JJ McCarthy. But then I'm like, wait a second, look at what JJ McCarthy has around him. If you took JJ McCarthy and you put him in Foxborough, he would get eaten by the wolves. And it's like the problem with this team, and we'll get through all, we're going to get to Drake May. We're going to get to a lot of different ways of angles of looking at this, but isn't the real basic problem that like they still don't have enough talent?
I mean,
maybe I'm just missing something. Like,
I guess my counter to that would be if guys weren't able to get open, or they were dropping passes, or then I could fall back to the talent. But when you're missing wide open guys, the talent level kind of becomes irrelevant because those are just bad throws that nobody has a chance to catch at that point. I mean, and maybe I'm just fixating in making it a bigger problem than it actually was, but I seem to remember a lot of errant throws, wide open guys who were missed, passes that never had a chance of being completed. And that's really what bothered me.
Well, if we're gonna take the conversation to May, I think you have to look at this game from two ways, two places. One is pre-interception, and two is post-interception, because everything you're saying is true after that interception.
Yeah.
Before that interception, I was sitting in the stands saying Drake May is the best player on the field. I thought he had a really good first half. I think people are forgetting how good he was in the first half.
It was a pretty good first half. I'll give it to you.
It was a very good first half. He hit some big passes. They really should have been up more. I thought May at times, I thought he sometimes did look a little uncomfortable even in that first half, but I thought he played really well. And I don't think the accuracy was an issue in the first half. And then he made an awful pass, a stupid decision. He tried to force a play, which we know he has been known to do, right, which is sort of one of the big issues for him coming into year two. And I felt like he melted down. I felt like he was rattled. I felt like he was off his game after that interception. I felt like he was super inaccurate. His mechanics were off. Everything just looked off. And again, because it's fresh in my mind, I'm going to contrast that to what I saw from McCarthy last night.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Right, who throws a huge pick six and then picks himself up off the ground and has like an epic fourth quarter to steal a win. That to me is what concerns me more than anything about May.
Yep.
Okay, you threw a bad pick. Fine. You were playing a pretty good game up to that point. You collapsed at that point. Where was the resiliency? Where was the mental toughness? It wasn't there. That's what worries me about May on Sunday.
I totally agree. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. And I think you're right. I think that kind of oversees everything that I was saying about his inaccuracy in his struggles in the second half and the intercept is the fact that we should have seen a quarterback who bounced right back with a fire under his butt and came back and said, you know what? I'm not going to let this game get away from us. I got to step up and make some plays. And I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play my butt off and I'm going to win this game. And instead, like you said, he slipped kind of further and further into the depths as the second half went on after that interception. And you're right. That is the most concerning part, especially like you said, and I'm so glad you said it. JJ McCarthy had an awful first half of football, an awful pick six. And I kind of wrote the Vikings off after that first half last night. And he showed that he was poised. He was all fired up. He came out and he played an incredible second half. And it's just like, that's not a talent thing. That's a mental toughness thing. That's a poise thing.
It is. And I always felt like May had those traits, which is why I was really surprised the way he fell apart. And it really makes me wonder, what kind of messaging is he getting from this coaching staff? And are they just like hammering it in him that he can't turn the ball over? And I know, and I understand why, because that was an issue last year. But the way I think of things, and you tell me, I mean, he threw the ball 46 times. He threw 1 interception. If you extrapolate that out, that's an interception percentage of 2%, right? If he throws the ball 600 times, that's 12 picks in a year. So, for an NFL quarterback to throw 1 pick in every 50 or so passes, that's really not that bad,
No.
but it felt like he overreacted to it, whether it's because of the coaching and because of the pressure they're putting on him, because of the pressure he's putting on himself, his own makeup, whatever it is. He crumbled after making an interception that, frankly, most quarterbacks that throw the ball 50 times, they're going to throw a pick somewhere in there.
He totally did. And, that's one of those things where it's like, you can talk about the talent, you can talk about the coaching, you can talk about the freaking weather, you can talk about whatever you want, but that really just comes down to a mental toughness thing. And that's, like you said, that's the thing that's concerning. I will say, going back to the whole, and I know this seemed super irrelevant at the time, but you remember the viral clip a little earlier, this summer, when Vrabel yelled at Drake May and told him to get in the end zone and go celebrate after
Yes.
the offense scored, right? And that was something that at the time I just kind of like brushed off. But are we starting to see the revealings of a quarterback who kind of maybe lacks some of like the intensity and some of like the emotional fire that's like needed to compete at a high level and be resilient in the NFL. I don't want to read too much into that, but like, am I wrong to bring that up?
No, you're not wrong to bring that up. And you're talking to someone, and you know this. Like, I've been super bullish on Drake May. I've been impressed with his intangibles. I was impressed with the way he carried himself last year. But the way this camp went, and then with the way the quote from Vrabel being the prime example of that, because I do read into that. And then this was just so damn ugly on Sunday. It's like you have to start to wonder, is there some intangible factor missing here? And I'd say, like, right now, Justin, the pressure is really on May very quickly into the second year to respond and to produce. Because, you know, the one thing about May, and I hate to say this because, you know, and I'll let you go in a sec. One more quick point. You know, we were in this pattern, Justin, for 3 years where we kept saying we're waiting for this moment from Mac Jones. We're waiting for that moment from Mac Jones. JJ McCarthy, and I know he's got a lot more around him than Drake May does, and I hate to keep going back to him. He had a moment last night that we haven't seen yet from Drake May, right? And it's like, you just wonder, some people are winners, some people aren't winners, some people don't have those intangibles, and you really have to question, because things just went that bad, I felt like, in that second half.
I totally agree. And I think, you know, you talk about the pressure in the mounting need to kind of see something. You're going up, you know, to jump ahead to this coming week against Miami. You're going against a team that just made Daniel Jones look like freaking Josh Allen, right? So you're going to get your chance to bounce back. So I really, really hope that we see Drake May come out this weekend and be intense, be aggressive, look comfortable, not be timid, and really make a statement against a team that I expect him to bounce back and have a good game against.
See, since you brought up the game next week, I will say that I'm super worried about this game because, look, I mean, I know Miami got their ass kicked in week 1, but I've learned over the years, as has any better, because we've all been burned by this, don't overreact to things that happen in week 1, you know, and the reality is, I don't think Miami, we both agree they're a mess. And yeah, McDaniels may be the first coach fired. That was your call. I went along with it. I don't disagree with you. I still don't think they're as bad as they looked on Sunday. I think they probably weren't ready to go. Their season's on the line. They're at home. The Patriots never, ever win in Miami, especially in September. Tua has freaking owned the Patriots. So, like, I feel really bad about this game coming up this week. I think the Patriots are looking at 0-2 with a revamped Pittsburgh team coming in here in 2 weeks. And really, they're back against the wall right from the beginning again.
Well, I'm a little bit more optimistic, and maybe that's just because of how down I am on this Miami team, right? Like, you know how I feel about them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I'm all of a sudden looking at this Miami game and saying, just my own personal opinion, that this should be one of the easier games on their schedule. And I know the history of playing in Miami. I know the history with Tua, but I just feel like if there's one team who's in a tougher situation right now than the Patriots, it's the Miami Dolphins. And so I'm looking at the Patriots to go into Miami and take care of business. And I'm looking at this Patriots team to bounce back both offensively and defensively. And if they don't, I think, like you said, we're going to be in a lot of trouble because now you're 0-2. You got the Steelers coming in who looked pretty darn good on opening day. And, you know, the schedule really starts to pick up, I think, especially in the second half of the season. So it's like if you start 0-3 and you lose 2 or 3 games that you probably should have won, this team's season could go really south really quickly.
See what my prediction is, and I'm not saving this for 3 into the future because this wasn't going to be one of my 3, but I will say I think they lose this weekend. I think they beat Pittsburgh and Carolina at home to recover. I have a feeling that's the way it's going to go, but I have no confidence in this team's ability to go down to Miami and win a game in September and to beat Tua. It just seems like, look, you know, it's one of those things like, I don't know, whenever you really need, like whenever Belichick really, the few times maybe where the Patriots needed a win, there was always the Jets and the Bills there for them to pound on, right? You have those division relationships that are really hard to overcome. Tua seems to own this Patriots team. And if you're looking at it from Miami's perspective, right, you're like, okay, we just got our ass kicked in week 1, but we're coming home against a team that is 8-26 in their last 34 games, or 8-27 in their last, whatever the hell it is, in their last 35 games. Can't win down here, and is a total mess. So Miami's looking at the Patriots as like a get right game, way to leave that week 1 debacle behind them in their building. So I really feel like this is going to be harder than people think it is.
Look, I get that, and that's fair. In history says that you're correct. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm still optimistic, but I totally understand feeling like this is going to be a difficult game, and that it's a game the Patriots should lose. Just looking at the line, I think Vegas is saying the Patriots should win. I mean, Miami's 1.5 point favorites at home, right? So that's kind of implied that the Patriots are a 1.5 favorite, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I think whoever loses this game is in a really, really tough start and in tough shape.
Yeah, and Miami's got Buffalo next week. So if they lose this game, they're looking at 0-3, and I really feel like this could really be like, if McDaniels can't beat this Patriots team, then this could really be the thing that sends him spiraling out of control, and he just never recovers. He might be fired by Halloween or certainly Thanksgiving if they can't beat.
Be great for my prediction. I would welcome that. But look, you looked at that. I look at that Miami team against Indianapolis, and they just looked like they were already ready to go golfing. They looked like the season was over already. I mean, Tyreek Hill, I think he wants out of there as soon as possible. Tua looked like he was seeing ghosts. I mean, McDaniels looked like he was just, I don't know. Everything just looked like things have fallen apart for them. So hopefully they got it worse than us, and it gives us the opportunity to get right.
Let's talk a couple other quick things about this game on Sunday, Justin, before we move to around the league. Number one is one of the real surprises for me on Sunday was the running game and just the complete lack of the ability of this team to run the ball. And I heard some statistics come out today. The Patriots, I think, ran the ball 17 times. I believe all 17 of those runs were to the left side of the line, which is crazy. So I was really surprised that they weren't able to run the ball against, I think, a pretty weak Oakland defense.
Right.
I was surprised that Trevion Henderson really did nothing.
Right.
I mean, where was the Trevion Henderson of the preseason? He looked really slow. They were all over him. They had like 3 guys on him every time he touched the ball. The lack of a running game shocked me on Sunday, Justin.
Yeah, it did. I think I alluded to that at the beginning, where it was like, I was expecting that running game to be, one of the safe havens of this offense. They want to be a smash mouth ground and pound football team. They got a couple of talented backs back there. And as we said, like if I was expecting the line to struggle, I was expecting them to struggle in the pass protection. I was not expecting them to struggle run blocking. And yeah, it was just super, super underwhelming. And you would even think too that with the weather, it might've been a more run heavy like game plan or scheme, but they just weren't able to rely on it. I don't remember almost like a single big like chunk play, like a bit, I think it was all pretty much either like, a couple yards here and there, if not a loss or no gain. I was just super, super underwhelmed. One thing that I would like to see though more of is I would like to see more Trevion Henderson, because I do wonder if you're going to get more benefit from him as a starting back than just the change of pace back. That's what my thinking might be.
Yeah, and he might be one of these guys that like gets better as the game goes on. I mean, he's a guy that seems to seek out conflict and runs violently.
Right.
And sometimes those kind of backs, they it's kind of a wear and tear thing. And you know, they're more effective in the second half after 20 touches when the defense is tired. So you might be right about that. You know, one thing you just hit on that I do think we should mention, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Do you remember one time in this game that a Patriots ball carrier made a play, either as a running back or receiver? I think they had almost no rack yards, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like they didn't shake tackles. The Patriots tried to run screens. They tried some stuff. There was like nothing there. Credit to the Raiders because they really tackled awesome on Sunday.
They did. Yeah, the Raiders defense, you know, the Raiders defense surprised me and the Patriots offense underwhelmed me. Again, you know, I don't know if we should be giving the credit to the Raiders defense, if the Patriots was just that bad, or if the Raiders defense was that good. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I don't really recall anybody making any plays. You know, it seemed like anytime they advanced the ball, it was because Drake may just hit an open guy, right? And then he got tackled like immediately. Yeah, there was really nothing noteworthy to speak of.
I think you have to give a lot of credit to Pete Carroll, Justin, who you know is someone that I don't always love. I mean, you know, I don't think. I mean, he's a great defensive coordinator. I'll give him that. And I think on Sunday his game plan was terrific. He had that team well coached. Anytime a Patriots guy got the ball, there was like 3 Raiders there to make the tackle. They didn't miss any tackles that I can remember, and they really just out schemed. And frankly, Pete Carroll completely outcoached Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels on Sunday, really on both sides of the ball, but definitely on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you know, a lot of these struggles, I think you got to give Carroll credit because he really came up with a great scheme and coached a great game.
Yeah, I agree. And just to hit on that Patriots defense again real quick before we move on, I know that they were down Christian Gonzalez, and I know he's kind of your best, arguably your best player, definitely the best player in the secondary. But if you're just going to totally kind of collapse like that and not be able to make any third down stops, you know, I mean, how many times do we see the Raiders offense convert on third down, third and long? You know, all of these situations when we thought that the Patriots defense kind of had set themselves up well to get off the field. And it's like, if you totally collapse, you know, when you miss a guy like Christian Gonzalez, I expect there to be a drop off, but I don't expect there to be a total collapse of the defense. And so that was a little concerning as well.
I mean, I didn't think the defense really played all that well, to be honest. People keep pointing out the 20-point thing. And hey, look, I feel like the Raiders could have scored more points if they really wanted to. They were in such command of that game. They didn't have to. And I mean, I saw a lot of times, I mean, this defense, I think they gave up 9 plays more than 20 yards, which is the most the Patriots defense has given up in something like 13 years. They gave up a 3rd and 20 with the game on the line, last gasp attempt. They gave up that first touchdown on the first drive on a 3rd and 11. I really, Justin, didn't feel like this defense really played that well. I think the 20 points is a little misleading. Whenever the Raiders really needed to move the ball, I mean, they were generally able to.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, one last thing that I got to lob back your way because, you know, I feel like you got to take your victory lap on this one is the kicking game. That
was going to be the next thing I brought up.
All right, there you go. Yeah, in the rookie kicker. I mean, and you know what? To your credit, you called perfectly. I mean, it's almost like you saw into the future. You said exactly what could go wrong and how it would affect the gameplay. Right. And that's exactly what happened. You know, you miss a very makeable kick. And now when your team gets into a little bit of trouble, you're down 2 scores instead of 1. And it completely changes how you have to play the game and approach the comeback.
I mean, if we saw one thing on Sunday, we've seen this Patriots team cannot afford to leave any points off the board. They need to score every opportunity they get to put points on the board. They have to take it. You cannot give away points on a 39-yard field goal on turf. Yes, it was a little drizzly. It was not bad weather when that kick was missed. That was unacceptable. This team had $60 million in cap room, and this is the best kicker you can put out there. You talk about supporting your young quarterback. I mean, you need a good young kicker, a good kicker, it doesn't have to be young, a good kicker who can take the 3 when you get the 3. These 3 points actually turned out to be very impactful at the end of the game. If the Patriots had 13 coming down the stretch instead of 10, it would have made a difference. I mean, this isn't going away. Like this whole thing with this kicker, I'm telling you right now, this is going to be an issue. At least one, it'll be an issue in the future.
Yeah, totally agree.
And then one last thing, Justin, just a couple really quick things about Vrabel. What did you think of him punting on that 4th and 10 with 5 minutes left? The Foxborough faithful was not too thrilled with Mike Vrabel's decision to pump at that point.
I don't love it, but by the same token, we talked about how Drake May just kept kind of descending as that game went on. And maybe you feel like if you put him in that pressure situation on 4th down and he blows it, that it even just like accelerates that or sends that to a degree higher than that. And maybe he thought he was doing his young quarterback a favor by sending it back to his defense. I don't know.
It was very frustrating for people there. People booed.
Yeah.
Great way to start Vrabel's, return, getting booed in his first game. But I honestly, my take on that is, what difference does it make at that point? They were kind of completely outclassed by that point. They weren't winning the game either way.
Right.
All right, let's get to around the league. I feel like there's so much to discuss outside of Fox. Oh, I have one more quick thing. Sorry, want to bring this up. Now that we've talked about all this stuff, are you revising your expectations, your predictions for this Patriots team based on what you saw in week 1?
No, just because I saw a lot of teams in week 1 look a lot poorer than I expected them to. And I think, there's just something about week 1. It can be a weird week. And I'm not ready to make any revisions until I see how this team does in Miami.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard not to overreact to week 1 because last year we did overreact to week 1 in a positive way.
Right.
And look how that worked out.
Exactly.
So I'm trying not, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. And to me, again, I said in open and take, I'll say it again. This was just a huge shot across the bow. It really disavows, I think, the notion that this is going to be a quick rebuild. Now that could change if they go off and they rattle 3 wins in a row. Then obviously we're going to look at it differently. It's still super early, but I have to say, me personally, it did make me reconsider some of those optimistic, positive expectations that I've had to this point.
Well, you know what? To that point, right? And like I said, I'm not ready to revise the expectations yet, but all of the things that we were hoping and expecting to see, we didn't see. We didn't see a dominant defense. We didn't see Drake May taking a big step in year 2. We didn't see the running game, lead the offense. We didn't see anybody make plays. We didn't see the Patriots outcoach
Diggs.
We didn't see Stephon Diggs. We didn't see the Patriots outcoach their opponent. So all the things that we were expecting and hoping to see as far as improvements go, we didn't see. So it's fair if you're someone who is revising your expectations right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't want to overreact to week 1, but to me, this was just that bad. It really was that bad. It was so different than what I think we all expected for this supposed new look team in this new season and all the change that they have made. And it just looked really like more of the same. And to me, that was just a huge disappointment. And I couldn't help but be a little shook by it. I'll tell you this. I had a ticket, Justin, $50 for the Patriots to win the Super Bowl this year. And I caught DraftKings sleeping at the switch, and I was able to cash it out for 45 on the 50 after week 1, which I literally clicked on the thing as fast as I could get it and took my $45 back.
That was a great decision by you. Cause I guess you did catch them sleeping. And sorry, I know we're trying to move on. One more quick thing that I'll say.
Yeah, go for it.
About this Patriots team is, when I say we, I think Vrabel, let a lot of talent, and I say talent loosely, but a lot of talent on this roster go. You think about guys like Andrews and Juwan Bentley and Jabril Peppers and a handful of others that he let walk, so to speak, in the name of changing the guard and turning over a new leaf in kind of leaving the past in the past. And what we saw in week 1 was just more of the past this year. So I would hate to think that we let talent walk out the door on principle with an intention to change the direction of this franchise, and we just keep getting more of what we've seen in years past. So that's the last thing I'll say about that.
Yeah, and I mean, look how bad Jalen Hawkins. Like, what's the first thing you think of? I mean, didn't Jabril Peppers have a place on this team?
Totally.
And Jalen Hawkins played awful. Don't give me this interception crap. That was a great play by Carlton Davis. Yeah. It was lucky. Hawkins got torched on that first play. He was kind of a liability out there for most of the game. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling me Jabril Peppers didn't have a place on this 53-man roster?
Yeah, did, of course.
So I don't know. I mean, you're 100% right. There's been a lot of restructuring, and a lot of people pushed out the door. But at the end of the day, the end result did look the same. And hey, they're under the gun going into next week. So let's see what happens if they come out and surprise us with a win. I mean, I feel like, hey, it's game on. But if they lose to a pathetic Miami team this week, I mean, I really think at some point you got to start to wonder: are we on track for another 4 or 5 win season?
Yep.
All right, let's go to around the league. Unless you got anything else, Pats related.
No, let's do it.
All right, man, let's get into it. We are going to start with a new segment in around the league on the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast, and that is called Take Your Medicine, which means that when we're making predictions like we've been making the last few weeks, a lot of those predictions are going to be wrong and stupid. So we are going to come back to you all and take our medicine in front of you and us and God and everyone, the whole world watching. So Justin, do you want to take your medicine first, or should I take my medicine first?
Yeah, you know what? I'll take my medicine here. And it's obviously a long season. I think there's a lot of time for things to change, but I don't know if it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, I came out and I officially welcomed Justin Herbert into the Talented Loser Club. And I said that he was, this was the year that was going to seal the deal. The Chargers were going to come in like 3rd in that division. They were going to miss the playoffs. Herbert wasn't going to have a good year. And boy, did that team look good on Friday night. And boy, did Herbert look good on Friday night. He in particular looked great. And you know what? I'm not rooting against the guy. It's just I'm going off of what I've seen in years past and in prior big games in a big situation. But look, this just about shut me up in every way, because I said that he's never been able to beat the Chiefs, right? And that's kind of like the gold standard in that division. He beat the Chiefs. I said he's never been able to play in big games. I mean, opening night, primetime game in Brazil. I mean, that's a pretty big game. Pretty big game. And I said that he's a loser, and he's not. He went out in not only did they win the game, he sealed the deal with a great heads up play with his feet on the final drive, and outsmarted Chris Jones, picked up the first down on 3rd and long. And he's making me look like I got to take my medicine.
I mean, it was a somewhat big game, but it is week 1. So
for sure. I'm not going to. It's not a playoff game
but
yet.
I think the reason you have to take your medicine, to be honest with you, is just the way he looked. And we saw a different Justin Herbert out there. That was probably one of the only times in his career that I've watched him that I felt he was poised and in command and really unflappable.
Yep.
And that was sort of a new look, Justin Herbert. Justin is in his 6th year.
Yeah.
I think this is his 6th year as a starting quarterback in the NFL. So, we've seen a lot of this guy. Let's not overreact to one good win in week 1, because we'll see who's standing at the end of the year. Justin Herbert has a long way to go, but I agree with you. You should take some medicine on that, because it looked like a different Justin Herbert than we had seen in years past.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Yep.
All right, I'll take some medicine here. I got 2 actually. I was going to bring up. One of them I'm only taking a half dose on though, and I'll get into the explanation why. But the first medicine I have to take is I told you all last week that I thought this was going to be a new year, a new leaf for Bryce Young. He looked great coming down the stretch last year. He's surrounded by weapons. He I thought he saved his career in the second half of last year. And so, yes, it's early. It's only 1 week, but I feel like I need to take some medicine on the fact that Bryce Young looked pathetic and the Jacksonville Jaguars held them to only 3 points. That's not a great defense. I'm sorry.
They got a garbage time touchdown at the end, the Chuba Hubbard.
Oh, they got a garbage time touchdown. That's right. So really 3 meaningful points and then a garbage touchdown at the end of 10 points. But Jacksonville, I don't believe is a great defense. They have a new head coach. Bryce Young, looked really bad. He looked like the Bryce Young from last September and from his rookie year and not for the Bryce Young of the second half last year. So I don't know what this means for his future. It's a young season. He will hopefully recover and I will save some face. But right now, I feel like I do have to take some medicine on Bryce Young because that was a really bad week 1 performance from the Panthers quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Look, I don't blame you after the way Bryce Young finished last year, thinking that, his weapons only got better, his team only got better, and that he should maybe pick up somewhat where he left off. But yeah, he totally 180'd and reverted back to what we had seen at the beginning of his career. And like you said, I think the most concerning part was, he wasn't playing like Baltimore or Denver defense. Like he was playing the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's just it. If he had to go into like Kansas City and that happened, I don't think I would be taking any medicine. I say it was a tough game. But we're talking about Duval, Liam Cohen, rookie coach, offensive guy. I don't know if I can name more than 1 or 2 players on that defense, if even. Right. I know they have the other Josh Allen. So that's about it. And that was like, I got to take some medicine. That was bad start for Bryce Young, and I predicted otherwise. The other one I'm going to take some medicine on is I did say on this podcast I'm taking half a dose here because I said that Dallas would get steamrolled by Philadelphia, and that did not happen. Now I want to say I took the Dallas Cowboys. I took the Philadelphia Eagles. The second Jalen Carter spit on Dak Prescott and got ejected, I raced to DraftKings and I cashed out my bet. And that's the truth. And I took a $15 loss on a $100 bet. I wanted nothing to do with that bet. Jalen Carter is a beast. He is one of the best players in the NFL. Yeah. He is maybe the best defensive lineman in the NFL. He's a game wrecker. He's a game changer. With him gone, the whole dynamic of my bet and my rationale for why Philadelphia was going to steamroll Dallas fell apart. And you saw right from the beginning, Dallas was able to run the ball quite well without him there, changed the whole game. So I will take some medicine for saying that Philly would steamroll Dallas when it was really a close game. But on my defense, Jalen Carter being out really does tilt the field. And I knew to get out once he was out. Yeah, no, that was very interesting. I mean, I remember sitting there watching that and seeing that he got ejected before the first play. And I said to myself, I don't know if this means the Cowboys are going to win, but it definitely means something. Like there's no way you lose your best defensive player, arguably your best player, and it has no impact on the game whatsoever. And we saw that because Javonte Williams in the Dallas Cowboys rushing game all of a sudden became effective and became a factor once Jalen Carter went out. And side note on that, really interesting, Dak did spit on him first when you go back. He spit on the ground. But like at his direction, right? Yeah. Like towards him. I mean, Dak should get something too, in my opinion. Right. I think no matter what Jalen Carter did was classless and immature, and it showed like a real lack of judgment, but it was retaliatory. It wasn't just like an out of nowhere the decision. But anyway, I digress. I mean, don't tell me Prescott was spitting at the ground. Like, look at the look on his face. That's what I'm saying. He was spitting at the ground, but he was doing it in a way that was disrespectful to Carter. Yes. And he instigated him, but that's how it always goes, Justin. Right. The person that responds always gets the punishment. It's not who strikes first, it's who gets caught. You know what I mean? In those situations. 110%. I mean, the whole basis of why I think Dallas has such a hard time with Philadelphia really comes down to the dominance on the offensive and defensive line from Philadelphia. So, I mean, with that Carter gone, that was like right out the window, and you could really see it right from the beginning. Totally. Dallas really availed themselves quite well in that game. I did say, as part of my take too, let the record show that Dallas would recover and have a respectable season, and I feel pretty good about that take right now because I think they did look pretty good overall. Yeah, no, I actually don't think Dallas is going to be as bad as maybe some people thought heading into the year. I wouldn't be shocked to see them be a 7-8, even maybe 9-win team. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. They look well. All right, let's go to a new segment. Victory lap, right?
Yep.
Let's take a victory lap. Again, if we're in the business of making predictions, some of them might actually occasionally be right. So I think we got to get into a regular habit of checking up on the crazy shit we say on this podcast. And when we actually get something right, I think it's fair game that we get to rub it in each other's face,
Yep.
in the world's face. So Justin, take a victory lap on something that you said. You got a few things that you really nailed.
So you know what? I'm going to treat this victory lap like a relay, and I'm going to pass the baton from one take to the other, just because it happened in the same game. And so the first half of this relay is going to be what I already hit on, which was the Miami Dolphins. Predicting that they were going to fall apart this year. Mike McDaniels would probably be the first coach fired. They'd finished fourth in the AFC. You know, they had a bunch of problems in that locker room, and it's a long season. But from everything we saw week one, it looks like that's well on its way to being pretty accurate. The other side of that coin is the team they were playing. And I said that if Daniel Jones was the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts,
you got to take a victory lap on this.
I'm going to take a victory lap
back in July.
I did. I said back in July, if Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, they will be one of the most slept on teams in the NFL. I picked them to win the the AFC South. And I think that they're gonna fly under the radar, but they got good weapons, they got a good O-line, they got a good defense, and I think Daniel Jones is disrespected. And I like their coach. And that was exactly what we saw. They came out and dominated on both sides of the ball. Daniel Jones looked great. Their weapons looked great. In that defense looked great. So I'm gonna take a victory lap on that one.
100%. That was a great call on Daniel Jones. Like, I'm not surprised they beat Miami, but I was surprised that they crushed them as bad as they did.
Right.
Jones looked really good. I mean, it's the trend in the league now for these sort of quarterback reclamation projects to end up in better circumstances and look better. Maybe Daniel Jones will be the next guy, but if they win that division, I mean, you definitely called that back in July, so you get to take a victory lap as long as Daniel Jones looks good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take a victory lap on, I mean, we were texting about this last night, but I got to take a victory lap on Caleb Williams because he came out and he looked really good.
He did.
And I was getting ready to get my medicine to take. I thought Caleb Williams was going to be on my take the medicine because we've just totally dumped on that guy. And I think he hit his first 10 passes, but
he did.
Unfortunately, he reverted back to the Caleb Williams of old. And if you watched that game last night, you saw he still does a lot of the things that are just wrong, that drive you crazy. He looked more talented. We've talked a lot about where's this great talent, and I still kind of feel that way. I mean, but I saw some of that talent last night. I will say, I think Ben Johnson is going to get the best from him. I think you could see that Ben Johnson had made a positive impact on him. His game was a little better, but when really got down to it, especially in the second half of that game, I think he missed 8 throws. I think it was I heard a stat today. He literally overthrew 8 receivers in the second half of that game that were open. So and there were several times he still does the thing where he runs backwards, and it actually got him a touchdown run in one case, but it also led to a lot of bad plays. He doesn't handle pressure well. He's scatterbrained. I mean, sometimes he does look good, but it's just not consistent enough. He's inaccurate at times. I feel like he is still a coach killer. I really do.
Yeah, you alluded to it. The first drive of that game, I watched that and I said to myself, oh my God, Caleb Williams might be one of the best quarterbacks. Yeah, he might be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. What the heck happened to him?
We're gonna have to eat a huge bag of shit.
Oh my God,
we've been rough on him.
Yeah, and
we might still.
Exactly. Yeah, we might still. Today. I mean, but I will say he at least showed that he has the potential to be as good as some people are hyping him up to be. Because if he was able to replicate that first drive, over and over again, that would be easily a top quarterback in the NFL, I think, in my opinion. The one thing I will say is that the talent, yes, I mean, you can still say the verdict's out on not out on that yet, but the athleticism, I saw it last night. I saw the athleticism. Yep. I mean,
I agree.
He's fast as lightning. He escaped a couple situations that I thought he was dead to rights going to get sacked. A couple of those, off balance throws across his body.
The throw to Odunze on the sideline.
That was a fantastic.
That was impressive.
That was impressive, right? So he showed that he does have some talent and he is extremely athletic. But he's almost running into the same problem as the Bears' previous quarterback, Justin Fields, which is that he can't do it consistently. And that was kind of the problem with Justin Fields. Justin Fields, as he's shown throughout the years, can come out any given Sunday and dominate a game and win a game that he's not supposed to win. And put up 150 rushing yards, 2 on the ground, 2 in the air, etc. And Caleb showed that I think he could potentially do that too. But he also showed that consistency is going to be his biggest problem. And that to me, I think is going to be the toughest challenge for Ben Johnson.
I mean, I don't think last night was all that different. I mean, well, he looked different, but like the consistency issue was an issue last year for him too, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And look, the athleticism, yeah, it's great, but I feel like it also gets him in trouble. And this is where like the mental processing of the game comes in, because when you have guys like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes who are super athletic, but they seem to have a sense of what they can and can't do, what they can and can't get away with, and when to get out of trouble, when to pull the ripcord on a play and bail. And it just feels like Williams doesn't have that. Yeah. So, if he could look like he did on those first 10 passes, I mean, he would be something special, but I don't think it's ever going to happen for the guy. I really don't. And if I'm wrong, I will be back here taking my medicine in a future episode of the podcast. I mean, I will say this, Ben Johnson will get the best out of him. He will be a better player, but I think you're just still going to run into a lot of the same frustrating stuff with him because I just think that that's the nature of who he is.
I agree. And I think he got a tough draw week 1 going up against, one of the better defenses in the NFL, going up against one of the better defensive scheming coaches in the NFL, right? I think with what we saw. But
also missing their best defensive player. Don't forget that Harrison Smith was out.
That's true. That's very true. But I mean, I do think that, the way Caleb started that game, if he had kind of gotten a soft landing in week 1 and maybe was able to carry that performance past, the first drive in the first quarter, and build a little momentum, that could have been, all the difference in the world right there. But that defense really did settle down in the second half. And they created some problems for him and they reverted him back to the old Caleb. So I think you're right to take the victory lap on that one.
And you just, for the love of God, he just has to stop going backwards. Because 80% of the time when he does it, it ends in disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's doing a little too much back there.
100%. Okay, let's move, Justin, to the next segment. The always exciting 3 into the future, where we are going to make 3 predictions for coming up this week or in the future of the NFL that will serve the basis for the medicine we have to take next week when we're wrong. But give me 3 predictions for the NFL coming up.
All right, I'll start with the first one. So we talked about a little bit about actually I don't even know if we talked about it, but Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. I had said that I thought the Jets were going to come out and win week 1, right?
Yep.
Aaron
Rodgers, take medicine on that.
Yeah, I'll take some,
and the Giants too, by the way.
And the Giants, both. Yep, those are all things I should take medicine on, but the Steelers came out and they won the game, and Aaron Rodgers in particular threw for 4 touchdowns, something he only did one time in a Jets uniform, right? And so he came out and he looked really good. The Steelers looked good. And Aaron Rodgers kind of got his revenge, his moment in the sun, the satisfaction against the Jets and that Jets franchise. And that's what DK Metcalf is going to get this next week going up against Seattle. I think DK Metcalf is going to be a top 5 fantasy wide receiver. I think he gets his moment and his revenge in the Seahawks. I think he has a monster game. I'm going something like 8 receptions for $130 and a touchdown, maybe 2. And that's my big prediction, is just like Rodgers got his revenge against the Jets this past week. I think DK Metcalf gets his revenge against the Seahawks this week.
I'll say one thing about it. I'm on record. I probably could have taken a victory lap for my Steelers call, saying Rodgers and the Steelers is not going to be a total disaster. It's still early,
Yeah.
but I think it is going to look better. One thing to think about with this Rodgers thing, and again, I think they're going to be very respectable. I think they're going to be a playoff caliber team. Rodgers will be better with Pittsburgh. I think he had the lowest average distance from the line of scrimmage per target of any quarterback in the NFL this week. So just take that little kernel of information with you and take it however you want. But I think it's going to be 4 touchdowns in a week and 4,800 yards like it was 6 years ago for him. No, I don't. I don't think it's going to be that good. I definitely think it will be better, but not quite there. Seattle, is that game in Pittsburgh or it's in Pittsburgh, I believe, right?
I think it's in Seattle. I'll double check that.
Okay.
Right now.
I think it's going to be.
Oh, no, you're right. It is in Pittsburgh. It is in Pittsburgh. Yep.
I think Pittsburgh will win that game, but I mean the Seattle defense looked pretty good this weekend against the Niners. We'll see, but at home, you're probably right that maybe there'll be a few plays for Metcalf.
Yeah, I just think it's as classic of a revenge game as you're going to get, and Rodgers got his last week. And I think Metcalf gets his this week. And you know what? Yeah, Rodgers, he didn't, the distance from the line of scrimmage, I get it, but that's very prescriptive of an Arthur Smith offense. You know what I mean? He's a lot of dink and dunks, a lot of short yards, a lot of tight ends. So that could also be part of the reason for that too,
Absolutely. All right. My first pick, 3 into the future, number 1 for me. I watched the Houston Texans this weekend against the Rams. The Rams have a good defense, but Houston, you're at home. CJ Stroud, this is your 3rd year. You've got some weapons on that team. Only hang what? I think they scored 9 points. I mean, I thought Stroud was underwhelming last year. Everyone expected him to make this huge year 2 leap after a great rookie year. I don't really feel like it happened. There was a lot of excuse making. I didn't like what I saw yesterday from Stroud and that Texans team. And what I'm going to say, this is more of a general pick for the year than a pick for next week. People are going to be questioning CJ Stroud's future in Houston by the end of the year. I think you're going to see a lot of questions around him because it doesn't feel, I just feel like the sense I get is that Texans team is really not going to be that good on offense.
Yeah. I don't hate that at all because CJ Stroud really has struggled as of late. And I do think you're right. You can only struggle for so long before people start questioning your abilities and your future as a franchise quarterback. So yeah, I would definitely accept that. I think I was definitely underwhelmed with them. I know the Rams defense is pretty good in its opening week, but Stroud, he didn't impress me at all.
After a bad year last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought it was a bad look for him.
Yep. Yeah. All right.
Number 2.
All right. Number 2, you just talked about the downfall of a quarterback. I'm going to kind of give you the opposite. This is a guy that we talked about a few minutes ago. When it's all said and done, by the end of this year, I'm going to predict that J.J. McCarthy will be regarded as a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I know that that's kind of a spicy take, but here's my thinking on it. The kid is clearly poised. You watched him in the I watched him in the locker room after that game, fired up, emotional, leading that team. The kid, without doubt, has all the intangibles that are needed to be an NFL quarterback. And we talked about Caleb's athleticism. JJ looked pretty athletic in the field too. He looked like, and don't forget that's his first NFL regular season game, right? He didn't play last year. So for all intents and purposes, that was his opening game of his career. You know what I mean? And to have that poise, show that athleticism. And let's not forget, he's got a great head coach and he's got a great offense, one of the best O-lines in the league. He's got a great set of weapons and offense.
And there should be getting Jordan Addison back.
Exactly. Jordan Addison should be back in a few games. So I don't think he's going to be I don't think he's going to be top 5, but I wouldn't be shocked if you're talking about J.J. McCarthy in that 8 through 10 range as far as quarterbacks go by the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he will, I can see the pathway to him having a really great year. I mean, look at what Sam Darnold did with that Minnesota team last year. I mean, that's probably the best situation for a quarterback to come into in the NFL between the coaching, the line, and the exceptional skill. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to come up with a better,
Yeah.
set of circumstances. Maybe there's one or two you could debate. So, I think that the guy has found himself in an awesome spot. He didn't play last year. I honestly, I think it was crazy to think that he couldn't have played last year. He tore his meniscus. I don't know when that was a 6-month injury. So I really feel like they just kind of saw the injury and said, take a redshirt year. They probably like what they had with Darnold, felt like they could win with Darnold. And they let this guy sit and learn and cook a little bit. And I mean, look, he started off on a great foot. Will it continue? I mean, he's in the best situation in the league. So there are no excuses for him. And it was a terrific start. And like you said, he's got that moxie, that intangible. Everyone's saying it today. And if that happens, Justin, and May has a bad year, like, again, look out below, because people around here will be absolutely hitting the ceiling.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay, my number 2 is, look, the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, yes, I predicted in the offseason, the preseason, they will not be a Super Bowl contender this year, and I will stand by that prediction. But what I'm going to say is, let's not overreact to what happened on Friday night. The Kansas City Chiefs are still a playoff caliber team. They're still a 10 or 11 win team. You cannot read too much into that Brazil game. I think it's a very unusual situation. If you look the way both teams last year that played in the Brazil game, they both came out and played really poorly, I think, the week after that.
Yeah.
So, I think it was just a strange situation. Opening week, got caught off guard. I don't think they're going to win another Super Bowl with this iteration. I really don't. But they're not dead yet. I've heard people say that they're dead, or that's going too far. The Chiefs are still a good team. They will recover their season and win 10 or 11 games this year.
Yeah, and look, you still got a pretty good defense. You still got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I mean, when you have that as your foundation, you're only going to slip so far. You know what I mean? Like, you might not have the same peaks as you've had in years past, but the valleys are only going to be so low. So I totally agree with that. I think the Chiefs will still be fine. That AFC West, man, has really got me thinking and reevaluating the whole landscape in the AFC, to be honest, because, I still like Denver. The Chargers are looking like they're going to be really tough. I mean, the Chiefs right now are last in the AFC West. And I certainly don't expect them to finish that way, but you could have a situation where you got 3 or 4 playoff teams coming from that division by the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't think the Raiders are going to hold up. I think that was just, I mean, they may be better than the Patriots, but I still think they're the worst team in that division.
I do too.
But yeah, I mean, and look, we'll see what Denver does. I mean, I mean, this could be one of those years, if you look across the AFC, where like a team wins 10 games but doesn't make the playoffs. I feel like, there's kind of that depth and that parity across the conference. Okay, your number 3?
My number 3 is, I know everybody is, at least in my circle, is getting down on Joe Burrow after a pretty tough performance in week 1, in which the Bengals still got the W. You can argue that they shouldn't have. The Browns kicker, big missed kick at the end of the game. But regardless, the Cincinnati came out and they got the monkey off their back. They finally won an opening game. But they didn't look good in the process, and neither did Joe Burrow. But week 2, they are at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think this is going to be an explosion of offense. I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to absolutely unleash on this poor Jaguars team. And I think the Bengals get right and win this game by 2 to 3 scores easy.
I love that pick. And that line did catch my eye this week, because I'm like, wait a sec, I love the idea of buying low and selling high. And I think right now you're selling high on Jacksonville if you take the Cincinnati Bengals this week, and you're buying low on Cincinnati, who did not look great, even though they won in week 1. So I agree. I think that number is too low. I think the Bengals are going to murder the Jaguars this week.
Me too.
I like that pick.
If you're looking for a game to alter line and get some value, I think that's looking me right in the eyes right there.
That's a good call. Okay. My number 3 is, right now at this point, the road to the Super Bowl in the AFC will go through Buffalo this year. I think you look across the AFC, I just made reference to it. There is tremendous parity, but I think the Bills are going to distinguish themselves as the best team in the conference. They had an amazing win against the Ravens, probably one of the best NFL games in recent memory, a 15-point comeback in the final 2 minutes. I like this Ravens team. I really do. They continue to blow leads, which is really their Achilles heel and one of those crazy things. But the bottom line is now that the Bills have a 2-game lead on the Ravens for home field advantage after week 1, which I think does mean something. If Josh Allen stays healthy, I see no reason why the road to the AFC Super Bowl won't go through Buffalo this year. Kansas City has fallen off. They've already beaten Baltimore. There's no one else in the AFC East, and the AFC South is trash. So I think Buffalo is the best team in the conference. And I will say one more thing, similar to what you just said. The Bills are 6.5-point favorite against the Jets this week. I think that game is in Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken. Whether it's in New York or Buffalo, it doesn't matter. I like the Bills in that game. Everyone's high on the Jets, and I understand why. The Jets are looking good. They might be more respectable, but I'm telling you, they will not be able to keep up with Buffalo. They will not be able to keep up with Josh Allen. I like the Bills minus 6.5, and I like the Bills to be the best team in the AFC in 2025.
Yeah, and it's funny because even though the Bills won that game, I still can't help but think that the Ravens are like the most talented team in football. And I heard somebody say the other night or after the game, and I think it's so true. Like the only team that could beat the Ravens is the Ravens.
Well, exactly. What's up with all the blowing leads? That's weird.
Like that's starting.
The ninth time it's happened.
Yes, like that's starting to become like their shtick, right? Is they're such a good team. They're so talented. They can be so dominant, but in big games, they shoot themselves in the foot and they can't close it out. So I still think the Ravens might be the best team in football. But I think you're right to say that the road through the AFC is going to run through Buffalo. And I think you're right. After the Ravens, I think the Buffalo is probably the most talented team. And that defense looks pretty good. The one area that does actually worry me with Buffalo is that secondary. I will say that Buffalo secondary, even just from a personnel standpoint, I feel like they got a couple scrubs back there.
Yeah, but that's why it's so important if they get home field advantage and teams have to come to Buffalo in January and they get the weather behind them. That's a big thing.
It is a big thing. But no, I like that. I think at this point Buffalo has distinguished themselves, and like you said, they set themselves up really nicely with that week 1 win.
I mean, when you think of a team that can't close out games and consistently blows leads, like you're expecting the coach to be like a guy like Mike McDaniels or like Liam Cohen or some like soft, like newer coach. Like Harbaugh's like a buttoned up kind of old school guy, John Harbaugh. And it's just like, it really is such a weird thing. You would never expect a Harbaugh team, a team that made its mettle on defense for so long to now be in this situation, this pattern where they keep blowing massive leads and losing games.
Yeah, it really is. It's shocking. And it's like, it's not even just like fringe guys that are making mistakes. It's like the Derrick Henrys and the Mark Andrews and the Lamar Jacksons. Like those are the guys making the mistakes, right? It's not even like weak spots on their roster that are dropping the ball. Like literally it's their star players. And so when your star players are struggling to close out games in big moments, it puts you in a really tough situation. If they can fix it, I think the Ravens are the best team in football, but that's a really tough task to fix. And it's not a recent issue. That's like an issue that's stretching back over the last couple of seasons now.
Well, to that point, I will say one thing, Buffalo, we obviously remember from January, a very competitive game. If Mark Andrews catches that ball, the Ravens probably win that game. Yeah. Now we just saw what happened on Sunday night, a game probably the Ravens win if Derrick Henry doesn't fumble at a critical spot. I'm telling you right now, I love the Buffalo Bills in the AFC this year. If I'm the Bills, I am praying to the football gods that we do not see the Baltimore Ravens in January in Buffalo, because I can guarantee you know how that's going to go. It's like third time is the charm. Eventually, the Ravens have to get some breaks. And I would not want to face the Ravens a third time in a key spot if I was Buffalo.
Right. Totally agree. Yeah. And And yeah, if I'm the Bills, I'm thanking my lucky stars that they squeaked that one out. But you're totally right. It doesn't. These last 2 wins against the Ravens are totally irrelevant if the Ravens come in hungry and healthy in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, my friend. I think that's all the time we are going to take today. Have any final thoughts about anything that happened last week, this week, anything coming up, anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Nothing too crazy. I'll just say that, again, I enjoyed week 1. I think
I'm sorry. I got something.
Yeah.
Non-football topic of the
week.
Oh
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God. How could we forget this?
We got to do that.
The Philadelphia baseball thing, right? Did you see the lady you saw this, right?
Yes. That tried to get the ball from the little kid.
I'm going to say something that's like way controversial. I kind of come down a little bit on the side of the lady everyone hates. I mean, yeah, she acted like a jerk. The ball came right to her and that guy like swooped in and took it from her. Now I know there's no expectation, it's kind of like a free for all out there, but I'm just saying come on. I know you were getting it for your kid, but I can see why she was pissed, especially when some guy comes up and like rips the ball away right from in front of her. I thought she kind of had a point. I think the kid should have got the ball. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't think she was as bad as some people said she was.
Well, look, I think you are right in the sense that the fact that the guy gave it to the kid is the only saving grace, right? If not, then it's just a total scumbag move. But you know what I will say is you see that happen all the time. And it's very rarely does the ball go to the first person whose hands it touches, right? I mean, that ball, if you don't catch that ball is bouncing and it's pretty much whoever scoops it up at that point. I consider it a free for all. I think it's fair game. Look, if you don't catch the ball, if you don't secure it when it comes to you, that becomes fair game for everybody else in the stands. The fact that he took it and gave it to the little kid, I think even makes it that much better. I can understand why the lady was upset. But you can't be pulling a total Karen stunt like that.
Right. And that's the other side of this whole thing is that why would the lady even want the ball in the first place? Especially if you saw that it was given to a kid. Maybe you have a point. It landed right in front of you. The guy shouldn't have took it from where it was. Fine. But do you really feel that strongly about it that you have to go Karen the guy out at this point? And you're 60 years old. Do you really care? Do you need a baseball that badly? You can go to the pro shop. There's 5 million of them. You can probably buy as many as you want. You don't, you know what I mean? What is the big deal?
See, and I think that's exactly the thing is I think that most people that are, crapping on this lady are picturing what she's like in her day-to-day life. Not because she pulled that incident about the baseball, but because they're extrapolating that incident with the baseball to say, what kind of person is this on a day-to-day basis in society? And I think you're not wrong to make those assumptions about her.
Yeah, well, the thing is, to be honest, and this hits a nerve in our country because the way she looks, she kind of fits this archetype of she has pronouns and you know what I mean? She's she has a certain kind of political thing. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying she kind of looks like a certain archetype of a person that really triggers a lot of people in this country based on political divisions that we have. And I think that was a huge part of this. If she didn't have that kind of that appearance, I think people would have reacted super differently to it too. It really is a testament of some of the political divisions I think that still persist in this country.
I agree. And you know what, going off of that kind of in her defense, I would say if that involved 2 dudes, if that was another dude who was, ticked off that some guys took the baseball from him.
Yep.
nobody would be having that same reaction. It would be a totally different narrative. It's the fact that that person was who she was that fed into the entire thing.
Yeah, or if it was like a attractive young woman or something like that.
Right. Exactly.
People would react differently. So you're right. And I think that is part of this. And like looking at like the cultural divide in our nation and how like rightly or wrongly, it's wrong to judge someone based on their appearances, but people do it. I'm not saying I agree with it. People do it. And I think people judged her based on her appearance. She fit into a certain mold. And that really, I think, hit a nerve with a lot of people in this country that really made this thing into something way more than it was.
It did. It fueled the entire fire and it set the flame ablaze for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't write it any better. It's like if someone, you know what I mean? It's like of all the, of all the things that could happen to you, that's exactly what kind of was like you said, the fuel to the fire. So, but and the other thing, just one more quick take on this. It's amazing that she's protected her identity because I don't think anyone really still even knows who she is. Like two or three names have been thrown out there and they've been wrong. So this lady's like in hiding somewhere and she's just waiting for this all to blow over. And that's a smart thing because I'm going to tell you something. Give it another day or two and people will forget about it and they'll be on to something else and she will be an afterthought. Just like the Kiss Cam thing. I mean, who cares about that now? It was like 3 weeks ago. Gone. Might as well be ancient history.
Right. Exactly. We live in the day and age now where if you're going to act a fool in public, you better not be on social media. And she might be benefiting from that right now. So
100%. She's probably in some cabin somewhere, just locked up, just like hiding, changed her hair, change her glasses, whatever. Totally different. All right, man. Anything else you want to add? Or we're going to wrap it up.
No, that's it. Looking forward to week 2. Hoping the Patriots can bounce back and that's about it.
1-1 sounds so much better than week 0-2. I really hope that we are talking about a 1-1 team next week and not an 0-2 one. We'll see what happens this Sunday in Miami. Justin, we want to thank everyone that took the time to listen to this episode of the podcast. Please find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. Please hit us up, ask us questions, reach out to us. We love to talk. If anyone wants to come on, hit us up. We'll let you on. We don't care. Have a great week, everyone. Go Patriots, and we'll see you next week.